bus tour. So right now, this is the interior of the bus. You can tell that they did a pretty rudimentary build here. The story is that it was three cousins, I think, and they came to the U.S. to visit, and when they were in New Mexico, they decided to buy a bus to tour around the States. So they bought this bus in New Mexico, 29,000 roughly, actually at the time it was 22,000 original miles. They took it into Abbott service, belts, hoses, oil change, 2 new front tires, did at least the minimal amount of work to get it safely moving down the road. This is the bus. It is a 6-window. It has a gas engine in it, and it's also a manual, 5-speed. It's funny to look back on 2021 and see how much I've done to the bus and how much I haven't done to the bus, right? Now, during that time frame, again, this is what, July 2021, we were trying to get the bus prepped before Descend on Bend because we'd already had tickets for Descend on Bend. Fortunately, I was already in Oregon, so it wasn't that big of a deal. The problem was that, again, being the tail end of COVID, there were still supply shortages, and the local DMV that we have required an appointment, and it took forever to get an appointment. I was lucky enough that I had already had an appointment because I'd had this bug, thanks to, I think, Itchy Boots and her traveling the world on a motorcycle to get my motorcycle license again, which I didn't transfer from California when I moved to Oregon. I didn't get a motorcycle. Got a bus instead. But, so I'd already had that appointment. It was coming up. We'd done the work on the bus, I think is, a bed surface, cooking surface, or bed surface, a bed, cooking surface, toilet, water, all of that stuff. And went to DMV, got my motorcycle stuff taken care of. And yeah, so when it came to the bus, it was funny because we'd done all this work, and I had asked, well, do you need to verify what we did on the bus? And she looked at me and just said, no. So it was like all of that work. But it wasn't all for naught, because when I got insurance, I had to send photos of the interior of the bus and the exterior, because they would not insure anything with like a rooftop deck or a fireplace inside. Of course, didn't have any of that. The guys I bought the bus from, first of all, super cool. When we bought the bus, they had all these tools and all of this wood. They had already laid down 3/4-inch plywood on the floor, which we ripped up, but later put it back down to seal it. But yeah, they left us a whole bunch of stuff. All of it was good stuff. But there was one thing that happened, and I remember I was working on something, and I hear Stanley, who's helped me out. He says, Tim, stop what you're doing. You got to see this. And I walked back, and he pulled out this duffel bag, black duffel bag. It was about just a small one, about this big. And he unzipped it. There must have been a half pound of cannabis in there. Yeah, it was all sort of dried out and crusty, but I think the longer story to these 3 kids coming from Spain and renting the school bus is that it looked like, hey, you got to live your best life. It looked like they were probably, because I bought the bus in Oregon, they were probably bud trimmers, which explained all of the little ropes and stuff. They probably got their own supply and hung it and dried it. And but yeah, so the bus came with all different kinds of tools and sockets and hammers and I think a skill saw and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it was well worthwhile. So, I promised you a bus tour, but there's not that much to tour. To walk you through and explain everything is kind of silly. But I will show you what the interior looks like now. But here's the catch. This... I've been working on this project called MyNomadDirectory for, like I think I told you before, almost 2 years now. And as part of that, I did I created 60 videos to run on MyNomadDirectory here on, let's see, on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. right? So 60 videos I queued up. Much of that was created with the help of AI. And I was playing around with AI. It wrote a song. You're going to hear that song over the actual bus tour. Now, if you want to hear more of this song, you're going to have to go to my Nomad directory, again, either on YouTube, TikTok, or Facebook. But it's kind of fun.
Introducing P. Jugs with his new hit single, The P. Jug Walk of Shame. Take it away, Jugs.
Waking up in my van, it's just another day. But before I hit the road, there's something in my way. Grab my trusty jug, it's full, there's no denying. Out the door I go, under the moonlight I'm flying. It's the P-Jug Walk of Shame. Every van lifer knows the name. Scurrying like a midnight ghost to dump it out, that's our boast. No glory, no fame, just the P-Jug Walk of Shame. Zombies
So that's pretty much it with the bus. You're probably wondering how much I paid for it. So keep in mind, again, these kids had purchased this bus. They'd done a little bit of work to it, but it still had the license plate from the school district. I think it was decommissioned in 2008. It wasn't insured or registered. And what happened was that these three guys that were working on this, there was only one left. They were on a tourist visa. Two had already gone back. So there was one guy left. And he's like, well, look, I still got time out here. I still want to travel, but I don't need this big of a rig. I'm just going to do maybe like a van life deal and spend my next few months doing that. So we purchased it from him, and I was able to get him down to about $4,700. Well, about exactly $4,700, I think, is what we paid for it. So that's it, really. I mean, you got to see the interior of the bus. I can go into more detail if you have any questions about anything that we have, but it's worked out really well. I will say, though, that we had two issues with purchases. The first Vevor diesel heater that I purchased never worked. Interestingly enough, I did purchase something else from Vevor. It was my 50-quart refrigerator freezer. The first freezer that I bought from Vevor, it couldn't regulate temperature. It was all over the place. And so I futzed with it for, a good 10 days or so, and it was clear to me it just wasn't working. So they sent me a replacement, and 2 years later, it's been just fine, knock on wood.